great week. I hope all of your Game Week 19 scores are way better than what I got in Game Week 19 score. But yeah, so what I want to do today is to discuss who we're looking at going forward for Game Week 20 and the weeks following, as well as discuss what happened in Game Week 19 and who we can kind of count on moving forward. I know Gabriel is in a lot of people's minds, Tarkovsky. We're all having a lot of problems in our defenses with injury, some midfield injuries, and a lot of unexpected things have happened over the past week or two, and I think a lot of us are even considering wildcarding, which I will say I would hold off on wildcarding for now, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it if you feel like your team needs to do it. There's a lot to discuss today, and I want to get into it as soon as possible. So let's start with me going over my team, saying how many points I got, which is next to nothing. I basically blanked on every single player, somehow skipped over every clean sheet that was possible to miss. Even got that Nico O'Reilly 57th minute substitution, so that was a nice, fun one-pointer. But yeah, let's take a look at my team and see what we want to go over moving forward. So yeah, here is my Game Week 19 team. As you can see, I only got 26 points, which dropped my rank from about 50k down to 92k. Yeah, not that great, but I'm still top 100k, so I don't think there's any need to panic. I know that I shouldn't panic and try to hit that wild card, and I might take a hit, but I need to just think about the present moment, stay in it, don't overreact to a horrible game week, and yeah, we move on. So as you can see, I had Bernd Leno in goal with 2 points. Mark Cucurella missed out. My entire bench missed out. And Patrick Dorgu and Nico O'Reilly both looked pretty not on point. All of Manchester United, I think, looked bad. So I was pretty happy that I did not bring in Cunha last game week. But yeah, Patrick Dorgu did not look much better. Amorim had him back on the left wing, essentially playing back in that back five. I really hope that he plays on that right wing next week, and they really kind of fall into that back four, but we'll see what Amorim does. Hopefully he will pivot because he needs to. And Nico O'Reilly just looked super tired, came off in the 57th minute. I don't think it was an injury, but he did look pretty knackered, and I think Pep realized that he needed to put in Gvardiol, who is just a fitness beast. I don't think he ever gets hurt, and he just pushes on. So yeah, Gvardiol came in for a 40-minute cameo, and Nico O'Reilly went off. In the midfield, the only return I had was a assist for Saka. It wasn't even like a actual statistical assist. It was off a corner, an FPL assist. I gave him that little crown icon because he's the only player who did anything this week for me. Foden, Verts, both just got a clean sheet point. Harry Wilson blanked, and then the whole front line blanked, and I was lucky that Dominic Calvert-Lewin even came in. So yeah, 26 points. I do have 2.4 million in the bank, and I'm up to 1,162 points, so feeling decent about that. But yeah, just kind of need to fix a few things in the team. My whole bench is, I think, out until at least February. I know that Ricardo Calafiori, news just came in that he is actually out for longer than expected, and Joe Rodon's ankle is not much better. Hopefully Kieran Dewsbury Hall heals faster than normal, but even then he might still be on the out of my team, as I think there are better options in the midfield as long as I can find the transfers for that. So yeah, moving on to my transfer targets. I think the main guy I want to get out is Joe Rodon with that 2.4 million that I have in the bank. I know that I can bring in a premium defender, and I'm kind of looking at these three guys, James Tarkovsky, Gabriel, and Malik Chaw. So my idea is that I think Tarkovsky has the best fixtures of the three, and Everton, I think, have proven to be the most reliable defense outside of Arsenal. Really, I think the discussion is whether or not I'm going to be willing to take a -4 for Gabriel or Tarkovsky, whichever one I do decide to bring in. I am leaning towards Tarkovsky. I think those DEFCON points are just too valuable, and he seems to get them every game. I think he averages about 10.7 per game, which is just about every single game you should get that added 2 points, and that will add up over the course of the season. And Gabriel, I think, let's see, I can pull up the stats right here. Gabriel does average 8.7 per match, which, you should expect him to get it most weeks. So I think that is great. I know over last week he only got 4, so it is a little bit worse than that average, but I think he's just coming back from injury. We will see what he does against Bournemouth. I do think the final option in Chow, speaking of DEFCONs, I think that he's just nailed in the Newcastle defense. They face Leeds, Wolves, and then obviously Villa and Liverpool. But Leeds and Wolves are great fixtures, as well as Crystal Palace at home, who they play this week. I think that is a good fixture to attack for him, and that we can actually expect a clean sheet, even though Newcastle have not really been keeping clean sheets lately. I think that they might get one against Leeds and Wolves, as both teams are struggling to score, despite Dominic Calvert-Lewin obviously having a good run of games. So I expect Newcastle to do well in those games, but I think of the 3, if I had to rank them, I did put them in the order that I like. So Tarkowski first, then Gabriel, and then Chow for the final option. Now there are a few other names. Those are just the defenders for problems that I personally need to fix. But if you are looking for other names, I know that I made a list of midfielders and forwards who do look promising. I know people are thinking about bringing in Cherokee if they can find space. Anthony Gordon, obviously on that same run of form as Chow, because Newcastle, he's averaging 0.65 XGA per 90, which looks really good. I think that the problem is that stat is a little bit inflated because he only gets about 60 to 80 minutes per game. So that stat looks good, but in reality it might not be 0.65 per game. It might be per 90 minutes, which will deflate that number. I think Enzo Fernandez actually is still a pretty good option at 0.58 XGA per 90. With the new coach coming in, being that Maresca just got fired, I think that Enzo will be relied on by the new manager to kind of hold down the midfield, especially since Caicedo seems to miss a game every other game because of a yellow card or a red card or something like that. So I think Enzo is a very good option. You can also expect a few games where he will reach DEFCON. I wouldn't expect it every single game, but yeah, he's nailed for minutes. He's played almost 1,600 minutes, which is, I think 1,700 is kind of upper tier for the season so far. And yeah, he has the goal threat, he has assist threat, and he has DEFCON, so he's still a very good option despite the fact that Cole Palmer is back. And speaking of Cole Palmer, I think that he is in a lot of people's plans, coming back from injury. As of right now, he's averaging 7 DEFCON per 90 and 0.51 XGA per 90. But I think we all know what we're getting with Palmer. He's going to be the main man in that Chelsea team and be that playmaker that they need, that they've kind of been hurting for. So I think that if you can afford to get to Palmer, maybe not this week against Man City, but next week and going forward, the fixtures do turn around. I also was considering Trossard, but I don't think that he is really a good option right now. His minutes are a little bit under threat. Arsenal are kind of coming back from injury despite Calafiori going out this week. But I think Trossard, as good as he is and how much of a goal magnet he is, he does seem to just only play 40 to 60 minutes per game, which isn't what we want from an FPL asset. We need those guys who play all 90 minutes, who play as much as possible. So I think steer clear of him, despite the fact that he did get a goal and an assist last week. Moving on to Aston Villa with Ollie Watkins. He's played about 1,400 minutes this week. He's played about 1,400 minutes this season, which is pretty good. I know that he has come off the bench some for and split time with Malen a little bit up front, but he should be nailed, being that he's in really good form right now. He's averaging 0.5 XGA per game per 90 minutes, so you can expect returns from Ollie Watkins, and he is in good form, as I just said, so I think that he will be a good option despite any fixtures that they have that aren't too promising, even though I do think that they got through kind of the difficult ones the last 3 weeks, so and he still returned. So yeah, you can count on Ollie Watkins to get goals moving forward, and if you have space in the front line, say you don't have a Nekatike or you want to get rid of Holland, being that his form is kind of dropping, yeah, go for Watkins. I think that he will be a good option, and especially with Morgan Rogers behind him, who will continue to assist and provide goals for him. Same thing, I'm looking at Timber here, Timber and Gabriel. They're kind of interchangeable. I do think that Gabriel is he's just the guy you want. Timber always seems to be a little bit of an injury risk, and I think being that Gabriel is back now, I think he will get the goals, get the DEFCONs, and just obviously keep clean sheets as Arsenal do. So yeah, I would go for Gabriel over Timber at the moment, especially since they are both 6.4 million, which is expensive for a defender, but I think that they might be essential, at least one of them. And then for West Ham, Paquetá and Bowen both have very good fixtures upcoming. I think that either of them is a good option, depending on your team's structure. I think Paquetá is definitely a little bit better bang for your buck. They both are averaging about 0.3 XGA per 90, but Paquetá does look to be on pens and to kind of have that playmaking ability, and he wants to be on the ball a little bit more than Bowen. Bowen will be on the end of his passes, so really they're kind of a tandem deal. You just pick one and hope for the best. Bowen did return last week, but Paquetá had the penalty and the assist. So for me, I would take Paquetá over Bowen, especially since Paquetá is about 5.9 million right now, which is really good value. And then Casemiro for Manchester United, you can count on him for DEFCONs. He averages 11.7 per game, which is right on the cusp of that 12, which is what you want. So I think that is basically all you need. You can count on him for 4 points. He will get the occasional yellow, but he's smart, he's experienced, he knows what to do. So yeah, you go for Casemiro. He does have some goal threat, some assist threat, 0.17 per 90. Misread that, 0.28 per 90 for XGA. So he can be in the goals. If you look at his stats, he is, getting 5, 6 and pointers, and then he will kind of pop off and get a 12 pointer. So I do think that Casemiro is a good option if you need a 5.5 mid. But maybe there are other options like Paquetá for just a bit more, or even James Garner for Everton. And speaking of James Garner, in a similar boat, he is getting DEFCONs every game. He's in the goals right now, being that, KDH and Njai are both out, and he is kind of subbing in for that role for Everton, that creative role, that goal-scoring role that they need filled. He's played just about every single minute of every game this season. His XGA, stat-wise, does not look great, but he is in good form, and you cannot ignore form in FPL. I think that he does pass the eye test. He's on free kicks. He'll take the occasional corner. He's an important player for David Moyes' side on Everton. So I think that he is a good option if you need a cheap mid and you don't want to have, Elliot Anderson or Casemiro or someone like that. I think that he can definitely be someone to look for. Moving on to Bruno G for Newcastle, he is a very good option. He won't get you DEFCON every week, but he can get those added 2 points, and he's played just about every minute of the season besides that one benching, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he still came on at halftime and grabbed a goal. So yeah, I think Bruno G is kind of the main man at Newcastle. He's so important to the way that they play, and you can't really ignore the fact that he's got that X factor that a lot of players on Newcastle don't have, and he's reliable. Eddie Howe needs him on the field. So yeah, if you need a reliable minutes man, Bruno G is your guy. All right, then, now that we've discussed the transfer targets, I say that we get into my Game Week 20 team selection. To start with, I am going to leave Martin Dubravka in net over Bernd Leno, who faces Liverpool at home today. So yeah, Dubravka against Brighton away, not the best fixture, especially given Burnley's record, but I do think that he has a better possibility of a clean sheet over Leno this week. And then I do think that I'm going to bring in Tarkowski for Rodon and start him against Brentford at home. And then I'll have Dorgu and O'Reilly stay in the squad with Calafiori, Cucurella, and KDH still on my bench. Moving into the midfield, I do have Bukayo Saka, Foden, Verts, and Harry Wilson. I'm not very convinced about Harry Wilson, even though Liverpool have been kind of weak at defense lately. I think that he still is definitely the weak point in that midfield. Florian Wirtz is definitely kind of on his last legs. He's going to get a few more chances, maybe 1 or 2 more weeks before I try to free up those funds that he's taking up and find somebody who will be a better option, someone like a Paquetá perhaps. There is a chance that I do drop Harry Wilson to the bench and transfer out Ricardo Calafiori for Timber or Gabriel, most likely Gabriel. But I haven't quite decided on that as far as when this video is going to come out. As far as the front line, I will have Erling Haaland, Ekitike, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Fingers crossed that Calvert-Lewin does not get benched again, and that he kind of had his rest last week and came on for that 1-pointer. So I'm hoping that he will get into the starting lineup for Leeds this week, as I do think that United can be got at, especially when Leeds play at home. They're just so raucous. The fans are so into it. And I think that Calvert-Lewin really needs that. That's probably why he's doing so well, is because the Leeds fans are so great that I think Calvert-Lewin really kind of wants to play harder than he ever has before. Ekitike, similar to Verts, I'm kind of falling out of belief with him, but I know that he is a good option. Liverpool are still creating some goals, and he usually is on the end of them, especially since Isak has a broken leg and he should be nailed in that striker role. Fulham away, pretty decent fixture. Fulham are not the best defense. They usually do concede a goal or two every single game, which, speaking of, might be a reason why I try to get rid of Leno in a few weeks for someone like a Roofs or a Raya. But that's for next video. And then finally, I am going to leave the captain band on Erling Haaland against Chelsea at home. I think with the firing of Maresca, I'm hoping that Chelsea will kind of have a lack of identity there, and Haaland needs a goal, wants a goal, so I think that he will bag a couple against Chelsea who can be got at, especially if Cucurella is still injured and not there to hold down that defense. I think there's just a little bit of inexperience back there. Maybe Reece James comes in, but I think that the center backs have been playing well. Obviously, I think Trevor Chalobah is the third highest scoring defender right now. But Chelsea, I do think, will concede against Man City. Hopefully it's a Foden assist to Haaland or something like that. But I do think that Haaland is the best choice. If you did want to go away from him, maybe you could go for a Bukayo Saka. Yeah, I think that Haaland is probably the best option for captaincy this week. He's blanked in 2 or 3 games in a row, and that's not very much like him, and I think that he will bounce back this game. Alright, so that does it for my Game Week 20 preview and transfer targets video. I hope you all liked it. If you did, drop a like, drop a subscribe, hit those buttons. I'd really appreciate it, as this channel is just in its beginning stages, and I'm really trying to grow it. I am obviously an avid FPL fan, and I really love playing this game. So I hope that we can continue to create videos and talk about the rest of the season moving forward. I wish you all good luck. I hope that this week is better than the last. I know that for me, it can't get much worse, so I think that that will be great moving forward. But let me know if you have any thoughts, transfer targets you're thinking of, anything that you want to say, let me know. I will be responding to all the comments and keeping an eye on things. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next time.